The villa was burning behind them. Smoke bled into the sky in thick black ribbons, turning the stars to shadows. Nico didn't look back. His fingers were laced tightly through Sofia's, their hands trembling as they fled through the vineyard, vines slashing against their clothes, the echo of gunfire chasing their footsteps. His heart thundered in his chest, not from fear, but from the fragile hope that somehow, just maybe, they had escaped. Only hours ago they'd been tangled on the floor by the fire, a blanket draped loosely over their bodies, their breath sinking with the crackle of flames. Her lips had brushed over the scar under his left eye. He had kissed the cut on her mouth, left behind by a man who claimed to love her the only way he knew, through control, her father. She had whispered then, voice shaky, "Will we ever have peace?" And he had answered, "Only if we take it." It began with betrayal, not between them, but around them. The walls were closing in. One of Nico's own had cracked, loyal more to blood than to change. Don Moretti had stormed into the war room with a file in hand, filled with images of Nico and Sofia, of secret meetings, of lips brushing in alleys and hands linked in the shadows of Palermo. "You disgrace us," his father spat. "You'd burn down our name for a girl with DeLuca blood." Nico stood tall. "I'd burn the whole world if it means I get to live in it with her." He was locked in his quarters after that, guards at the door. A warning shot fired in his direction when he tried to leave, but he'd learned how to vanish. Nico always had an exit plan. He slipped out through an old passage behind the wine cellar, a tunnel he and his brother had used as children to sneak cigars and whispers to girls who didn't care for last names. Now it was his lifeline, and hers. Sofia was already bleeding when he found her. She stood on the second-floor balcony of her father's estate, the sea wind tugging at her long black waves, her mouth bruised and red from where Don Marcello had struck her. "You think love changes blood?" he'd said, his voice thunder and venom. "You think it makes you less DeLuca?" She had stared him down with fire in her storm-grey eyes. "I don't want to be a DeLuca. Not if it means being empty like you." And when Nico appeared on the ledge, a silhouette against the rising moon, she didn't hesitate. She climbed into his arms and never looked back. They ran to an old monastery on the outskirts of the city. Nico had once been hidden there after a failed hit at 17. The place still smelled like stone and forgotten prayers. The world outside was crumbling, but within those walls there was only the sound of whispered strategy and urgent kisses. Nico laid a map out across the cracked wooden table. Red circles. X's over Moretti and DeLuca supply routes, safe houses, accounts, secrets both families would kill to protect. "If we leak this," he said, "the cops will swarm them. There won't be anything left." Sofia stared at the map, then at him. He looked tired, scarred, beautiful. "And us?" He looked back, eyes stormy and soft. "If we survive the fire, we walk out of it free." They made love that night like it was the last time. The attic room held only a dusty bed and candlelight, but it was theirs. Sofia ran her fingers down his chest, tracing every scar like a story. He kissed the base of her throat, whispered promises into her skin. "If we get through this," she murmured, "I want a house with windows facing the sea. I want to read in the sun and wake up beside you without wondering if we'll die tomorrow." He buried his face in her neck. "And a garden." She smiled. "And a dog." The takedown began at dawn. They sent the files through a burner phone, dropped into the hands of an anti-mafia task force eager for blood. Within hours, the streets of Palermo lit up with sirens. Warehouses exploded. Arms deals crumbled. Men who had once stood tall in their family names fled or fell. Don Marcello was gunned down on the highway outside his estate. Sofia received the call in silence. Nico held her close as she trembled. She didn't shed a tear. "I already lost him," she said quietly, "long before he died." Nico's father was next. Some said he fled to Brazil. Others claimed he was found floating in the bay. Nico never asked. He didn't need the closure. The fire had already taken everything it was meant to. Weeks passed, then months, and the world forgot them. The newspapers buried their story beneath headlines of fallen empires. Rumours spread that Nico had been killed, that Sofia had run to Spain, that they had turned on each other. But the truth was quieter. They found a cottage along the Amalfi coast, perched on a cliff with vines crawling up its sides and the sound of the sea kissing its windows. Sofia planted roses. Nico rebuilt the porch swing. They never spoke their father's names again. Some nights they danced barefoot in the kitchen. Some nights they held each other in silence, scars pressed together like puzzle pieces. Sometimes Sofia would wake gasping from dreams of gunshots, and Nico would pull her close, his voice a calm tether. It's over. It's just us now. But peace didn't mean forgetting. One day, as they walked the open-air market hand in hand, a man brushed past Nico with eyes too sharp, a face too familiar. Nico paused. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That night he cleaned his old pistol in silence while Sofia read by the fire. She watched him for a long moment. "Are we still running?" she asked. He shook his head. "We're just remembering how to fight. If we have to..." The world would never be safe for people like them. But love had made them dangerous. Not because of the blood they carried, but because of what they refused to become. They were born into war, but they chose peace. And when the dust settled, all that remained was them. Like, subscribe and turn on notification for more Ink and Intimacy stories.